This is chapter 8, and the title of the chapter is The Most Valuable People Aren't Always the Most Visible. I really enjoyed this chapter because I think when I start talking, you'll start to, in your mind, envision situations where you have known people who are one or the other. And the law that goes with it is the law of true value. Okay. Now the author starts out telling the story about how he met his wife and how they initially were friends. They were friends, and she would help him through relationships, and she would, be his confidant when he was searching for a spouse, because he was searching for a spouse or a partner, and so she would constantly kind of be there for him. And he said he realized that the person he was looking for was right in front of him, and he had almost missed it because she was just this quietly supportive person for him.
She roped him right on in.
Huh?
She roped him right in.
She did. She just went, and we women are tricky like that. I knew somebody was going to catch it. So she just waited around and waited for her time. And then he realized that, all this looking, and she was exactly what God had wanted for him. And he was so busy searching for someone else that he could have missed it. So that's how he starts the story. And so that kind of gives you an idea of what we're going to talk about. He also tells the story of the 2012 Little League World Series. And it was an interesting situation because the Little League World Series really is worldwide, not like our World Series where it's just within the United States. And they knew that year that Japan had the best team overall, that probably Japan was going to take everything. So it wasn't a matter of who's going to take it. It was a matter of who's going to be the representative from the US. That was going to be the exciting, real challenging thing. Well, what happened was the winning team came from Goodlettsville, Tennessee. Now, interestingly enough, they'd only been a team for 2 years. But when people started talking about what they had going for them, they had a great attitude, they sportsmanship, they refusal to quit, they really just had that team spirit, and they won it in the town of Williamsport. So they were dubbed the Williamsport Wonder because they came out of nowhere. These other teams that had been established for decades were beat by the Williamsport Wonder, which were Goodlettsville, Tennessee. Well, of course, they were, there were parades and people speaking about them. And the mayor of Goodlettsville was asked numerous times to speak about them, about how, these kids did such a fantastic job. And in every time that he spoke about this team, he always mentioned the sacrifices that the parents made. And that if it weren't for the parents, even though the team won, if it weren't for the parents who took them to practice, who fed them, who gave them homes to live in, who encouraged them, who cared for them, washed their uniforms, and did all these background things. If it weren't for the parents, they probably wouldn't be as successful. So what he was trying to get at is, although they were not highly visible, they were indispensable to the value of this team becoming the USA champions. So that again is another story of someone in the background is kind of indispensable to success. Well, first thing I want to say is that God has a purpose for our lives, no matter how old we are, how young we are, no matter how we feel about that. He has a purpose and he has a destiny for us. And we all know that we can work real hard, we can sacrifice, and have relationships in our life that help us be successful in that purpose. Well, some examples of how that can work for and against us, we're gonna talk about Moses a lot tonight. Moses, Aaron, and Zipporah, which is Zipporah is his wife. So Moses, we would deem probably a person who had, not probably, it was a person who had a great purpose in his life for God, great destiny. He had a huge assignment. God gave him this assignment and said, you know, I trust you. I have this intimate relationship with you. I know you, and I want you to do this thing for me. You know, go get Israel out of Egypt. But poor old Moses was a little bit afraid. He was not strong and courageous in his call. He was more like, I'm afraid, I'm intimidated, I'm not the right person, I don't speak well. And even though God loved him, God got a little angry with him because he said, you know, I'm asking you to do this, and you're just tripping over yourself to say no. And so Moses offers up, well, can I take Aaron with me? Can Aaron help me? And even though God wanted it to be Moses's destiny, yes, he agreed that Aaron could go with him. Well, on their way, they're going to head out towards Egypt. And there's a part in there, and I never really understood it very well. It's funny how you read it and you say, okay, I kind of get it. But when somebody starts to describe it to you differently, you say, oh, now I get it. Well, God, on the way, God wanted to kill Moses. He was mad at him. He's on his way to Egypt, and God is mad. Well, why did God get so mad at him? Well, God had asked Moses to be faithful to all of the things that were required of him. And the one thing he didn't do before he left to go to Egypt was to circumcise his son. He didn't do it. He didn't take the time. Wasn't important. Minor issue in his eyes. But in God's eyes, if you can't do the minor, why should I send you to do the major, right? So he didn't take care of the little thing before he went to take care of the big thing. Well, it was a mistake, right? But God was angry about it. So Zipporah intervened, and she said, I'll take care of it. We're going to stop here. She circumcised her son. She laid the foreskin on Moses's feet, which ultimately the sacrifice and the faithfulness of Zipporah actually saved his life. Otherwise, God was like, I'm done. You know, but she said, you know what? I'll take care of the little things. Let me take care of the little things so you can take care of the big things. So now he can go fulfill his calling to deliver Israel. And honestly, yes, ma'am.
I don't think that Moses' son thought that was a little thing. You're saying this, and I'm sitting here sick for the poor boy, just sick. Did she put him to sleep? I mean, did she have any kind of anesthesia? Nothing. Oh God. Okay.
Well, in God's eyes, little. Well, yeah. I see it's going to be that kind of a night, huh? So anyway, he goes on and goes into it to deliver Israel. So the kind of the moral of the story at this point is that any relationship which is of true value will help you position yourself and prepare yourself for your destiny, which is what she did. She was all about, here, I need to take care of these things to position you to be successful. And Moses needed to prove that he could handle the little things of his household so that God could entrust him with the big things of his destiny. And in order to do that, she needed to step in and kind of help him out. He was missing the forest for the trees kind of thing. He was looking at big picture and forgetting that the little things needed to be done first. So there's a couple different kinds of people that come into our lives when we're trying to fulfill our destiny and do what God would want us to do. One is what we call a performance enhancing person. So God puts Aaron in front to speak for Moses. So he becomes this performance enhancing person. So Moses feels unable. And Aaron sees his job as simply that. It's a job. I don't have to give moral support. I don't have to give encouragement. I just have to stand here and perform. God tells Moses what to do. Moses tells me. I just do it. So I'm just enhancing what Moses is attempting to do. I'm the front man, basically. But Zipporah was there to prepare the background, okay? You see, I think you kind of see where I'm going here. So Aaron's out front and Zipporah's in the back. A lot of times what we have is dedicated spouses who will sacrifice for their partner to get something in order to better the whole family and that kind of thing. So let's take for an example. So man and woman are married and the woman works, then the man becomes, and you've heard this story, the man becomes a doctor, and once he gets established as a doctor, he divorces his wife and marries this beautiful model. Okay. You've seen it in movies, right? It's a typical. Well, somehow the person who gets the education and is benefiting from the destiny that is there for them, the purpose in their life, they somehow think they need someone better suited for where they eventually end up, instead of the person who was there for them during the rough times, okay? We see it with professional athletes, you know, that some of them now you don't see it all the time. Some of them really do find that permanent person. And what you realize is that you can see those relationships are so much stronger, and there really is that mutual purpose and goal happening. What is happening generally is the person is valuing the status and the impression and what looks good, rather than what's safe and secure and loving and helpful in attaining goals or fame and fortune. So I'll help you attain your fame and fortune, but you know, after that, you drop me like a hot potato. So in that sense, it's who's going to help you get to where you need to go, not the person who's up front, your performance enhancing person who makes everybody think you're a great successful person because you have a good looking mate, when in the background was this other person who worked hard for you and really made it possible for you to be successful. Okay. So when you look a little deeper at Aaron, let's look at Aaron for a little while. He really was a mess. He was a mess up. He messed a lot of things up. He really was there to just be the mouthpiece of Moses. He didn't encourage, like I said, he didn't do anything but just do what he was told. He was there, and what he did is he was available so that he could save himself and so that Israel ultimately gets out of Egypt and is saved. He's extremely visible, and He is a high priest, so he has the status, everything in conjunction with being attached to or the brother of Moses. So he has all this status, attached to what he's doing for Moses, what it looks like he's doing for Moses. But over the long term, he causes problems for Moses because he doesn't have that commitment level that you would want from someone who is going to ultimately help you with your destiny or your purpose. Initially he's put in there because Moses doesn't have a lot of confidence. So God, if you think about it, God and Moses have this very intimate, close relationship. They're speaking to each other. So ultimately what God is kind of proving is that Moses is this faithful, trustworthy man of God, and that the people of Israel should trust him, because why else would God be speaking to him? That's amazing. He's not speaking to Aaron, he's speaking to Moses. But Aaron kind of is standing in for Moses in a very surface way. But when Moses is going to be intimate with God and talk to him on the mountain, while he's gone, the people of Israel say, well, he's gone too long. We need to build an idol. So what does Aaron do? He does not resist. He doesn't remind them that God doesn't like graven, images and idols. He doesn't say anything. He's like, okay, you guys just bring your stuff to me and I'll make it for you. So he's really not committed to the destiny of Moses. He's not like supporting it, encouraging it, and reinforcing it with the people of Israel. He's like, I have a title. I'll just do whatever I want because it makes me popular. It's like the whole popular thing. I'm popular. Because Aaron keeps messing up, it strains the relationship that Moses has with God. Because Moses kept saying, I need Aaron to help me. And God's thinking or saying, no, you don't. You've got me. So in a way, Aaron is coming between God and Moses relationship-wise. Because God's saying, all you need is me, Moses. And Moses is saying, yeah, but I'm not good enough, so I'm going to use Aaron. So is that okay with you? Sometimes we do that. We don't think we have the confidence or whatever. Even though God trusts us, we don't trust us. And ultimately, Moses has to acknowledge to God and to everyone that Aaron is a screw up and probably should not be where he was put. I guess the question I have for you, and we'll stop a little bit, we'll go on a little bit, but I'm going to stop right here and just ask a question real quickly and see if you guys have any answer. How many of us have allowed ourselves to be hindered or frustrated by people who are very visible but not really valuable in our lives? And it could be God's purpose for you. It could be anything. It could be work. Can you think of any?
So one that comes to mind is years ago I had a friend or somebody I looked up to who, this was like years and years ago, and I guess they were kind of, I don't know the word I would use, I guess kind of manipulative, wanting to impose their own idea of what you're supposed to be about.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if this is answering your question, but they were, I guess, a visible person in my life. But I didn't find that obviously very helpful. So I guess I'm not sure if I've answered your question, but
no, I think it does. It's someone who's very visible in your life and wants to be somewhat attached to you. as a friend or whoever, but they don't seem to be very valuable. And either one of two things, either they want to manipulate you to do certain things their way because they think they know better, or they kind of get in the way and they trip you up one way or the other. They're still not doing what ultimately you need to do for your purpose. They're kind of in the way because they're out here in front of you. And they may be helping you in some ways, but in some ways it's more frustrating that they're not really helping you, they're tripping you up. So now we're going to talk about the visible and the valuable and how do we weigh that. And I don't know, I never thought of this before, but y'all know the old television show, the Andy Griffith Show. It was Andy Griffith and Barney Fife and Aunt Bee and Opie, and you know, it's still rerunning. Well, Andy's this guy and he's got this deputy, Barney Fife. And what is Barney? He's a deputy. He should be helpful, right?
He's useless.
He's useless. Exactly. And that's the thing. He is nothing but a hindrance because he's all excited because he's a deputy. He's got the badge. He relishes the authority he has, the importance he has, the exposure he has because he's an officer of the law. And he feels like he's really valuable to Andy's life and all of that. But if you ever watch any of the shows, he really is a problem because he is very visible, but most of the time he screws up whatever they're trying to do. He doesn't, there's a problem. He's not very efficient. But he's very visible. I'm the deputy, you know. Well, then Andy's got Aunt B. And she's not very visible, but she's living with him. She's opened her home to him. She feeds him. She cares for him. She cares for Opie. She's not the center of attention, but she's critical to his success because if you notice, when the scenes that are in the home, there's a lot of encouragement and uplifting and all of that. And so she's not real visible to the rest of the world, but she is critical to his success because she encourages. And she takes care of those items that need to be taken care of so he can be successful in what he's trying to do. We all have people in our lives that are critical to our success, anything that we're trying to do. We have people who want to be visible in our lives and say, so-and-so's my best friend, you know, and I'm going to pick on you, Pastor. How many people want to say the pastor is my best friend? Because you're the pastor, right? The pastor's my best friend. Mother Trout's my best friend because she's mother of the pastor. I'm just using you as examples. I don't know, but they want to be visible. They want to be acknowledged for that. And then we have people who are truly valuable to us. Now, they could be someone you see every day, or it could be someone who is a long distance friend who you talk to on the phone just once in a while. But every time you talk to them, it's like no time has passed. And they listen, they encourage, they lift you up, and when you finish a conversation with them, you feel motivated again. So the visible aren't always the consistent, stick with it kind of friends, but the valuable can be those long-term, very stable relationships. Some things to remember, and these are just like observations that the author made. And there's 3 of them. The first one is, people of true value seek to please God, not to gain others' approval. I'm going to say it again. People of true value seek to please God, not to gain others' approval. So if you take Aaron for example, he was like, yeah, the people made me do it. You know, they wanted the idol, I built the idol. And he was swayed one way or the other with whatever people wanted him to do. He would just wanted to be popular, right? And it really angered Moses, and Aaron was abandoning the God he knew, but he did it. Now Zipporah, who is like in the background, she honors God and his covenant with the people of Israel, and she knows that whatever she does must honor God. And in supporting and encouraging and protecting her husband, that's how she honors God, because she knows he has a purpose, and she knows that's her way to honor God. Honor in helping her husband, she's honoring God first. So people who add value to your life will honor God above all. They're not going to bow down to peer pressure, and they really don't care what other people think about them, as long as God is pleased. They don't care if everyone else is happy. They care, is God pleased with what I'm doing to help whoever I'm in this relationship with? So those are the people who are valuable to your life. The next one, people of true value bring fulfillment, not frustration, to those whom they are in relationships. Let me repeat that. People of true value bring fulfillment, not frustration, to those with whom they are in relationships. So, and that's not to say people don't frustrate you. Everybody, makes mistakes, but again, let's take Aaron. Aaron was not helpful, but very frustrating. He allows and he facilitates things that are against God, which is not what Moses needs. Zipporah helps position Moses to become the leader he's supposed to be, helps him fulfill his destiny in God's plan for the entire nation of Israel. So her background things, and I'm sure, I gave you a couple of, what we know she did, but I'm sure she's in the background just making sure things are running smoothly for her family and her husband. That's what it's not about, being in the limelight. And no matter what the frustration, Moses always stayed close to Aaron, because he said, well, that's just the way he is. But the question I would have is, why? Why would you continue to have someone around you who you're like, well, that's just the way they are. They frustrate me. Is there something else that they can offer you? Are you getting something else from this relationship or not? Because if they continue to hinder your way and frustrate you, why are you hanging on to this close relationship? Is there something you can't live without that they provide? They're not really providing you with a relationship that's rewarding. They're not helping you towards your destiny. So it's kind of like, sometimes we just don't feel like rocking the boat. We'll let those people hang, and maybe they'll just go away on their own. Have you ever done that? Maybe they'll just go away. Maybe if I just let it go, they'll just go away. And they don't always, so they continue to trip you up. The third one is, people of true value take joy in helping prepare others for greatness instead of taking pride in their own accomplishments. So they're the people who always seem to be there and seem to be yay team, but not necessarily, it's not because they want the tiara and the sash. It's because they see that the success of whoever they're, whether it's a team or a person or whatever they're doing, a ministry, they know that they are lifting up that ministry with their efforts. We know that Aaron did not do that. But he seemed very proud of himself in the long run, because look at me, I'm a high priest, Zipporah simply does what needs to get done. And she doesn't look for anything more than pleasing God. And because she genuinely loves her husband and loves God and knows that this is what she just needs to do. This is her job. This is her purpose. And for some people, their purpose is simple. It's not to be the front, not to be Moses. It's to be in the background, making sure someone like Moses can be successful and fulfill their destiny. So we're not all Moses. Some of us are in the background. Most people who are truly valuable in your life will not stop to call attention to all that they've done for you. They're not going to say, do you realize what I've done for you? Do you realize how much money I've put into your ministry? Do you realize how much I have done for your life? Mother Trotter, do you do that to Pastor? I gave you life.
And I can take you out.
So people of value, they do not dwell on what they've done, but what you're doing. So they look at you and they say, I see your success. And they don't even really acknowledge what they've been doing in the background to make sure you are successful. So do you have any questions or anything at this point?
A lot of what you were saying, I just kept thinking about the office of deacon. It's like people who are not, who have that desire to help and that desire to help keep things going and make things happen, but that aren't always out front, and don't seek that limelight, but still such a vital part of things happening and being successful. So yeah, I kept thinking about that while you were describing these people of value.
They're like the unsung.
Yeah.
The unsung heroes. Yeah. Yeah. Any other? I'm going to read for you that I thought these were good because they're at the end of each chapter, they have this thing called relationship reminders. And this time, I think they help a lot. And I'm just going to read some of them for you. If you have a comment, go ahead and say. The first one is, some individuals harbor deep secrets that affect every area of their lives, their personalities, and their relationships. Do I have the right one here? Oh, wrong one, sorry. I'm like, wait a minute, that's last week's. Okay, here we go. Phew. Okay, the most visible people around you are not always the ones who add the most value to your life. Sometimes people you may take for granted or be tempted to overlook are the ones who save your life or launch you into your destiny. You can absolutely depend on people who are truly valuable to be there for you during critical times in your life. The most visible people in your life may not help you very much. They may actually hinder you. People of true value seek to please God, and they bring fulfillment, not frustration, to your life. They will also take joy in preparing you for greatness instead of taking pride in what they do for you. So at this point, we can just talk about it a little bit. I don't have any real questions, but because I don't think this one, I mean, what do you think? I mean, I know I've thrown out some examples for you, but what do you think?
Well, it makes you, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I got a comment. Sometimes you think people who are just in the way, or don't add any value to your life, is there a possibility that they're there to help bring something out of you that you don't see? Their purpose in your eyes may be a hindrance to what you're trying to achieve, but in a roundabout way, it could be to help you in the long run, to provide you with maybe some tough skin or how to how to tackle a big problem that's coming ahead of you, and you don't see it, and you know, because you dealt with these people, you know, before, and you've gotten your skills sharpened, they help you going forward in the future. What do you all think about that? Because sometimes you don't see the value that people have all the time, and it may not be a value that that directly pushes you up or helps you, but indirectly, it could be sharpening a skill for you for something that's about to happen.
Anybody?
I mean, yeah, I certainly think that there's truth to that. I guess it would just be a matter of being able to be discerning enough to be able to tell who's a waste and drain of your resources and wellness, and who actually could, in a roundabout way, indirectly be of benefit. So I guess, you know, part of that discernment then can't just be about how does the person make you feel in the moment, because some people could be irritating in the moment, but they'll be to see beyond that certain potential. So yeah, I think that there's certainly truth to that.
Mother Trout, did you have something?
I was going to say it sort of makes you think about, you know, taking a closer look at, you know, the people that are in your life, and make you think about what kind of value are they bringing to your life. So I never really, you know, thought about that. But it does make you kind of like want to take a look at it a little closer.
Well, and you know, there are some people who, if you notice, there's some people who always seem to have like, they seem to have a quantity of friends and not a quality of friends. And there seems to be this surface, I don't know, the relationships aren't very deep. And it's about who they hang with, and look how important I am. And it's a status thing, you know. I have more friends, or my friends do this, or my friend's a doctor, or, you know, that kind of thing. And there are people who that's important to them, to have someone of status with them. But you wonder what these other people, like, you know, okay, so, and I use pastor as an example because I've seen it happen with multiple. Pastors will tell you this is what happens sometimes, and you see it as a person in the congregation. I've seen it happen. People walk through the door, and the first thing they want to do is they want nothing to do with anybody except for the pastor, and or whoever they deem is important. And it could be pastor, or it could be maybe someone else that they somehow deem is important. And I always think to myself, well, what, aren't you here to worship God? You know, what happened to that? But you'll see people who do that. And it's interesting to see that in a ministry. You know, there are people who are just the hard workers who just say, okay, what do you need me to do? What is it? Tell me what to do. I'll do it. I mean, when you think about, we have, I was talking to someone the other night about the work we've put into the church. I happened to look at some pictures from a year ago of the church and how much work we've put into it. And it got me thinking about the people of value. You know, when you think about the group of people we have that are very, very, are valuable people, because it's not about, hey, did you see I painted that wall? It's, we're all in this together. And that's what this reminded me of. It's this core group, if you want to say that's what we are, is about getting the work done for what we see as the purpose of the ministry. not about pointing out who did more than someone else, you know. And that's what struck me when I was reading this, that we have so many people who are valuable people, not visible people within our group of people at church right now. We have a lot of valuable people who who will do whatever it takes to get something done. And that's how it struck me. I look at the people that we currently have that are willing to do the work. And in the past year, there weren't a lot of visible people who weren't doing work. Now we just need a few more valuable people because some of us are getting tired.
This chapter made me, during this discussion, when you were asking the question about the relationships that you have that may be people that are more valuable or visible, just to be visible, or something like that. So, and I'm thinking an exercise to maybe do is think of all the people that are like in your close circles, and imagine how your life would be affected if that certain person was not there.
Mm-hmm.
What would that person, what would be taken away, or what would be added to you in the if this person was away? Is there something that was valuable that was taken away? Or if they're taken away, is that a good thing? Imagine if this person, is this person a drain? And would you be a benefit if this person was like further behind you?
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a good point.
Dangerous to think about.
It's a good point, though, when you think about it in those terms of, are they draining me?
Yeah.
Or are they really valuable to me? And is it and to me, I would hope it was a kind of a mutual value, that I'm as valuable to you as you are to me, in that when you need help, I help you. And then when I need help, you help me, kind of thing. And then you think about it, but I think about like people who I've known who just weren't a whole lot of value, but they were just frustrating for me. They seem to always get on my nerves or get in, trip me up somehow, just trip me up. And when I'm trying to do something, and I feel like I'm, and if you've ever worked on a group project for anything, that's another thing to think about, a group project. If you've been in school and you've had to do a group project, there's always those people who they don't care what it takes. They just will do the work. And then there's other people who are like, well, I'll be the presenter, but they won't do any of the work. I'll be the presenter for the group project, but you're not doing any of the work. So when you think about it, it's almost that kind of a scenario as well, because if you're doing some of the work, then when it comes down to the presentation and people start asking questions, they can't answer any of the questions because they don't know. They didn't do any of the work. And so I almost looked at it like that too, Marcia, where you're forced into either a work or a classroom situation where you have a group project and somebody's doing the work and then someone else wants to be the presenter, which is fine if you both do the work together, or all of you do the work together and you all know it well enough. But I've seen it time and again where there's this person who they want to be the presenter, but they don't know anything to do with the work behind it. I see nodding heads, everybody's. Because it happens in school, it happens at work, it happens, and you're like, you know what? Just get out of the way, let me just do it. And when I used to teach the freshman seminar when I was at St. Louis University, and I would give them group projects, and I would sit back and watch. And people don't realize that the instructor can see that. I mean, you can see it because they don't know anything about the project. And it doesn't mean they're the quietest person doesn't know anything. It means the person who just really has no idea. So I kind of like this chapter because it really makes you think about people you surround yourself with who, you know, when he used the Andy Griffith thing, and, you know, Marcia said, well, he's useless. Well, yeah. Do we all have a Barney Fife in our life that we just tolerate because he's Barney Fife? You know, he's all about how important he is. Okay, you go ahead and be important there, Barney. And that's fine. But as long as, and my thought is that they can be that way as long as they don't trip me up. I would be very frustrated as Andy. I would have gotten rid of Barney.
I always wanted to yell at Andy and say, why do you let him do that?
I would have gotten rid of him. I would have gotten rid of him. I would have said, just give me anybody but Barney.
Yes.
Give me the drunk guy in the or the barber or anybody. So any other questions or comments or thoughts? Not a difficult subject, but I think a thought-provoking one, and one where I don't need to give you prompts to have you think about who's valuable and who's visible. What's important? I mean, look at it this way, Pastor. You have a praise team who are a bunch of valuable people that hate being visible. Because you know you can't have the praise team without any of the parts, right? But they don't like standing up there, so you know, what a group.
Well, it's better than having a bunch of showboats who always want to be in the front.
That's true. That's true. But it's funny because, you know, the things that this made me think of were things like that, you know.